time is it?
Pasa pasa,
Time?
pasa pasa.
Time? Every girl, every girl, every girl, every girl. I go me a
Pasa pasa.
don't stop, girl, wine, drink until I get. Drink and rave till the morning light, my body. Center, 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 center. Have a shot, man.
You're making it seem like hard work kills people. If we have family and Kerry is making $150,000 a year,
Okay.
I am making, hold on, I'm making $60,000 a year.
Right.
And the babysitter bill is $70,000 a year.
Right.
Who's gonna stay home? Kerry? Hell no. It does not make sense.
Right.
I have to stay home.
Right.
These it's just ignorance, right? To believe that because you look a particular way or you're a particular sex or you buy into a certain gender role, that that this is how a family is going to be run and function well, right? It won't work. It just doesn't make sense. So I think a lot of these things are personal. When you get into a relationship with that person, you all have to leave egos at the door, men and women. A man can't talk about, oh, I'm the man, so, and a woman can't say, well, I'm working now, so I can't. If I like to cook, great, I'll cook. Maybe on a weekend you might cook because we could always buy food if we mess that up. No, but like y'all get in that relationship and make it work. Like, let me just say this one thing, because I keep saying I'm divorced. I was married for 17 years. My ex-wife and myself, we talk at least 3-4 times a week. We have a great relationship, right? My daughter has never wondered about if mommy and daddy are good or bad, right? So it's not like if our divorce was more like it wasn't about, it was more on a communication level and certain beliefs that we differed in, that we couldn't get to the same place. But we are great friends, and we talk a lot. So I just want to say that to say a failed marriage doesn't mean a failed relationship. Because you have to maintain a relationship regardless going forward if we're gonna evolve into a more mature people as Black people.
Right. I agree. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll leave.
What time that food going on the table?
we will leave that there. I wanted to kind of move on. No, actually, I did want to talk before I moved on to the time frame that we had discussed previously. Well, we had touched on previously, where Kerry was saying that women kind of drive the bus. I want to know how you guys feel about that. So essentially, if a woman decides, they meet you at 28 and their goal was to always be married before 30. And so you have 2 years to prove yourself and get it together. Or if they say, listen, I'm 28 and I need to finish my degree. I need to make sure I get this business off the ground. I need to make sure X, Y, and Z. So that's looking like another 10 years. Are you good with that? How do you feel about people having time frames and then that time frame driving the relationship? Ralph, let's hear it. We know you have thoughts on this.
Women are amazing animals, for lack of a better word. That's like we are all animals.
We are.
Like, in a good way. I'm not looking at it, nothing negative. A woman, I have one of my best friends, right? She is a year younger than me. And she decided she wanted to have a relationship or a kid or whatever it is. And she was bullshitting and hanging out and partying and liming. And when she's ready, if it's 7 months, right, to get it done, like women will just get in this zone and try to make it happen regardless of what science says. You know what I mean? So to say this timeline that we were looking at, I was looking at the timeline, and let me just call some of the numbers. Talking stage 2 years, relationship 5 years, engagement 3 years, wedding planning 2 years. These things are not mutually exclusive. Some of these things happen simultaneously. For example, from the time I tell you that we are engaged, Mish, you are already wedding planning. I refuse to believe you wait 3 years and start wedding planning 2 years after that.
You're assuming that everybody is different, but yes, I understand that the perception.
That's I think is a good assumption to have, because I like I said this to you before. I don't know anybody that wanted to get married at 32 and started that process with that guy at 20, right? The one guy I know, two of my good friends, Kevin and Jody, they were together for 12 years before they got married. And this is how it happened. They were together, and one day Jody just came home cursing, and the next week they got married. Right? That's how it went. And they married, and they always would have had a good relationship. But at some point he was BSing, and he didn't even realize. He was none the wiser.
Right.
Because everything was going good. Now, on the flip side of that, a woman, and again, from the women I know, when they're ready, that 12-year period or whatever, if it's 5-year period, whenever they decide it's time, they will drop whatever they with and start focusing on where they want to be. And if that happens in 6 months or 3 years, depending on what their plans are, the guy will just have to fit in. And that's what we do. We fit in. Very seldom you will find a man that had everything pre-planned and actually went through with those plans.
Right.
Yeah, we plan around education. We might plan around business. We might plan around a lot of stuff. When we plan around marriage, we learned it in the church, and we often don't execute the right way. The woman pulls that execution part together first. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
I think I stated earlier that one of the fatal mistakes that people make in getting into marriage is a lack of investment in time and preparation. I feel that, like any other major investment that you're going to make in life, that it is quite okay to have a plan for your marriage. I would like to be married at 30. I feel that it is okay to have goals. And if one of your goals is to be married at 30, then that's fine. If you don't meet that goal, it's not because you didn't have one, right? Something happens along the way that torpedoed that. But it is very important to set goals. It is important to invest time in preparation for marriage, for all the other investments that we will make for education, for business, for property. It is very important to invest time in preparation for marriage. And here's why. Because that is exactly what marriage is. It is time, right? It is time. You're going to be spending, and the expectation is, you're going to be spending the rest of your life with somebody. Every morning for the rest of your life, you're going to wake up and look at the same person.
Jesus.
Okay? It is.
Why you say it like that?
It is.
Nisha?
It is.
What I say exactly?
You're going to wake up. You're going to at night hear the way she snores or he snores. You're going to wake up in the morning and see what the wake up face looks like. Therefore, these are things that I feel that people ought to spend time preparing for. And the best way really to prepare is to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. Have a development of your own character. You're not going to know every curves and turns that life is going to take, but you're going to have an attitude which says, this is the attitude that I take toward the turns and the curves of life. Yes? It is, and secondly, it is important to spend time to get to know the fundamental of the person you're going to marry. Look, that is important. You're literally dealing with a person. It is very important to spend time to get to know the person so you can relate to the person appropriately. You can relate to the person in an effective manner. Communication becomes difficult if you don't know who you're communicating with.
So then, are you promoting the practice marriage? So you live with each other, divide up the income, divide up the household bills, all of this before you actually get married?
I do not subscribe to living together, period, before getting married.
Okay.
That is just
So
me.
there is no test run for the marriage. You're just
No
going it
dry
and
run.
cross
No
your
dry run.
finger. There's no
But
dry run.
I'm interested. I am interested though in hearing Shar's perspective on this timeline, right? Like, what does that?
One sec, I would like to hear his wife talk. I
Yeah.
don't know if he is over there stifling this lady, and we
I
can't see
am,
the whole picture.
I am, I am, I am talking in my mind. I'm listening. I'm listening.
I love it.
We're always here, right? We only have them for this one day, so I don't want to waste time. We let
All
them
right,
talk.
I love it. I love your answer.
Follow up, and you'll hear all the
Listen,
wife has.
Big D, send me a notes. Send me a notes. I am going to get a wife just like yours.
I mean, in actuality, though, to be honest, I don't believe in the whole the numbers that's given, right? That makes no sense. I mean, I do believe in taking time to know the person that you're. It doesn't make sense in my mind rushing into a marriage with someone that you're going to spend eternity with, only to realize that that rush was a big mistake, and now you're like, whoa, what have I done? So I do believe in the importance of taking the time to know the person that you're going to be married to, if you're going into the marriage with the understanding that we're doing life together, right? Because we all know what this marriage thing is now. Nowadays, it's not how we were raised, how I was raised, right? The way and this is from me, the way I was raised is, once you say I do, we are doing life together. But nowadays, that's not it. When it gets hard, people just give up and they walk away. They're like, this is too much. It's not what I signed up for, and they walk away from it. Listen, for each his own, and I'm not judging anyone. It is, people walk away for different reasons. For me, it's different. Okay, I'm speaking from personally. So because I have that understanding, because I believe that, I also believe in taking the time to truly get to know someone. Now, I must admit, we got married within a year of dating. Okay, so within 2 years of dating. So sorry, I was corrected. Within 2 years of dating. Now, a person may say, well, whoa, was I really taking the time? Did you really get to know 2 years?
What are you ripping up?
Rip up all I've notes.
Within 2 years.
Rip up all I've notes. Oh my gosh.
Let's be fair. Everybody is different, right? Some people may know enough about a person in 6 months, and that's good for them.
I agree.
I don't judge people. Some people may need 5 years. Some people may need 10. For each his own. For us, we thought 2 years was suffice. Now, after being married for almost 8 years, can I be honest? I would have taken 3 or 4 years, because there's things that I learned about him that I didn't know about in the 2 years. But isn't that what marriage is? You learn.
It wouldn't have changed anything.
Well, again, it's not about changing, but I'm just saying time. No, I mean, I would have married him again if I had to. But I'm just saying, I knew enough. I knew enough within those 2 years to know that I wanted to do life with him. Right now, I learned a lot more about him during the time that we were married, because people evolve, you grow, you don't stay stagnant, the same person you were. I'm not the same person I was when I got married at that number. Let's not talk about my age. But I'm not the same person. I grew a lot during that time, and so did he. But for me, when I walked down that aisle, I knew that as we both evolved, I would have been willing to go through the journey with him. The good times, the bad times, and the middle times with it, neither good nor bad. I wanted to go through that journey, and I hope he feels the same way.
You better feel the same.
I better feel the same. Listen.
So
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, my final point on this particular subject, particular part is this. I believe in quantity of time. I believe in quantity of time spent. I have no issue with that. But I feel that more important than quantity of time is quality, right? The quality of the time that you spend. Fundamental to marriage is friendship. You 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 want to marry your friend, right? You want to marry your friend. You want to get into this relationship, this life journey. It's difficult for you to take a life journey with somebody who's not your friend. There are some fundamental things that are going to be missing there if the person is not your friend. It is preferable if the person is your best friend. At the moment you begin the journey, it is preferable if the person is your best friend.
Right.
But the person must be your friend. And that is where quality of time comes in. That is where even quantity of time comes in. You love is important in marriage, but like is also important.
Right.
I'm I must like you as a person. I must like spending time with you. I must like the fact that you're funny. I must like the fact that you gotta like the person. Um, and therefore friendship becomes fundamental, and that is where we speak of the quality of the time and the quantity of the time in getting to know the individual so that you can say, okay, I know enough to say this is a journey that I want to take. Here's what you don't know. You don't know what the journey is going to be like. Yes, you don't know. But you know that whatever the journey is going to be like, this is a person you want to take it with.
Mhm.
That is what it is.
Okay. I On that note, I do want to talk about the list. I did write down some points as you were talking, especially when Soph was talking. And I do want to bring this up in a separate episode, outside of this. But I did want to point out about the culture of walking away, where now people are like, listen, I'm tired of this. I can't be bothered. I have the option of leaving, so I'm leaving. And then tying it into what Darren said about you're going with someone and you want to be with your best friend or your friend. I do want to point out that my best friend in primary school is not my best friend right now. So as much as y'all had the same things going on, we had the same things going on 20 years ago. Cannot see yourself being not friends with this person 20 years ago. I'm not friends with that person right now. So things change, people change, you evolve, whatever. The difference is, especially as the culture, especially the Caribbean culture is, the woman is going to stick it out even when they don't like the person anymore. And I've realized that, especially as I was going through my divorce, that was one of the reasons why it was hard for me, is because of the culture. And I didn't realize that until Lati and I kind of had that conversation, because she never experienced the family life that I did. Everybody in my family was married. Everybody had the traditional, family style. Whereas everybody in her family, it was women. It was just women leading it. There were no men around. She had a different experience than I had. She's like, the only reason I know what that looks like is because I was around your parents so much. And I was around your family so much. So she's seeing that experience and I'm seeing that experience. And I'm like, okay, well, and she's like, okay, well, your concept of what marriage should look like is what you experience. You experience your parents together for the last 30 years. Your family is together, all your aunts and uncles, they're all married, etc., etc. Whereas to me, you getting a divorce is not a fail, because I never experienced that. To me, that's not the culture for me. So I think the concept of women staying or the family being kept together is a cultural idea. I don't think that people are just saying, okay, I don't like this person today, I'm just gonna leave, because this hasn't been, it's not like people in, what I'm trying to say, it's not like people back in the day were like, okay, I don't like this person anymore, I cannot leave. It's just that it wasn't, they didn't feel like they could or should not because they didn't want to. They just made a decision that they were going to be unhappy, and that was what was going to happen. And as we evolve and as we realize that as we gain these skills, we realize that we don't have to. We don't have to stay. We don't have to be unhappy if we don't want to. We could do bad all by ourselves. We don't need other people to do it for us. So that was one point that I wanted to. Raf, you wanted to say something?
Huh?
I didn't know if you wanted to say something.
I mean, I'm listening to your words. I can
So
I'm detecting something in there. So keep.
no. So that was one point I wanted to make based on what Soph was talking about. The other point was and you addressed this kind of with it. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Just let me just make a quick point where that is concerned. I believe that if you do a poll, that you would find that there are people who in their marriage at one point or another wanted to walk away.
Right.
Because again, life is difficult. Life is hard. At one point or another, somebody wanted to walk away. Maybe at more than one point or another.
Right.
The conversation might even have come up about walking away. Because again, it is the challenges that life brings. And so really there is no, I don't know that there is any beating down of somebody for getting to the place where they probably feel that way. It is however true that some people act on those feelings of wanting to walk away, and some people don't. The point about people sticking it because they couldn't, again, there is the fundamental thing, and I mentioned this, and this is something that I've learned in my marriage. The fundamental thing in marriage is something called commitment, right? It is commitment, and again, I suspect that for everybody that may be different, right?
Right.
The commitment may be different for everybody. But sometimes you find that people may get to the place where they look at what they have, they look at what they could be, and they say to themselves, okay, I believe that I can be more fulfilled and I can be happier being by myself than being with this person. The truth is that may be the case with a whole lot of marriages. There are people who will tell you that if they had decided to go in a different direction, life would be different for them. Life would be better for them if they had gone a different direction. And so all of these dynamics comes into play. All of these dynamics come into play. So for me, I find that biblically and socially, marriage becomes about commitment. And how on those days when my wife wakes up and don't like me anymore, right? That that she says, okay, it is commitment. Today, this may be the issue. And again, that becomes how life is. And that is why you talk about life partner. You don't need a partner if life is always going to be good. Your partner is fundamentally for those times when life is difficult, when you need support, when you need encouragement, when you need somebody to hold your hand, when you need somebody to push you. And again, I'm saying that that is what I've learned. That those are probably not even things that I knew before I got into marriage. Those are things that I've learned through marriage. That your partner really is going to be for those days when you come home from work, man, and somebody get on your last nerve, and you don't feel like you want to go back tomorrow, or you feel like you want to go back and tell somebody something tomorrow, or do something tomorrow.
Right.
All right, and then you just sit, talk to somebody, rest your head on your shoulder, and my wife will talk for 2 hours. I usually get it. Guaranteed. After 10 minutes, I got it. But she wants to go for an hour, so she talk. That's
yeah, but that's your. What if you come home and the person is not giving that to you? I mean,
and that is what I'm saying.
Can I just say?
that is a part that your partner plays. That is where
Right. So I'm not divorcing the concept of marriage. I'm divorcing the partner who's not providing that.
We're not gonna have an argument.
That's
here,
a
right?
different.
Okay.
I think that's a
Because-
different.
Okay.
Right,
I think
that
we
is a
should
different
do it.
question.
I think we should do the walk culture another time. There's
I,
much.
I want to say something because I know. Sorry.
No, I was just saying to Darren's point. So that question about your needs not being met, I think it's its own body of work, right? Because it's never just the day I don't want to hear nobody's mess today. It's always
Divorce
it
does not
falls
manufacture.
into right. It falls into a larger context. But I think Darren, you mentioned commitment a few times, and it makes me wonder. You know, in a relationship, you're bringing yourself, right?
Mhm.
So there's this level of commitment that you have to yourself to feel that you're being your best self in that relationship, right? This whole concept of I got to be happy. This person's not going to make me happy, right?
Right.
So you have a commitment to yourself, whatever that looks like for you. And then you have this joint commitment with your partner.
Right.
And in my mind, those two things have to align most of the time. I
Right.
don't think they always align, but
Mhm.
most of the times they need to align for this commitment piece to work.
Let me. Okay. I said I wasn't. This was the last thing we were going to say at that point. But
You did say that.
let me put it.
You know, pasa nice.
One of the fundamental errors we make in relationships is this. We feel that our commitment is primary to our partner. Your commitment is not primarily to your partner or to yourself. Your commitment is primarily to the partnership. That's what it is.
Really good.
Your commitment is
Write
primarily.
that down. Oh, yeah, rip up the paper. Sorry.
No. Actually, I wrote down. While you all were both speaking, I wrote a lot of things down.
But
That's a good point.
your commitment is primarily to the partnership. You evaluate the partnership. You see where you see what the partnership brings. You see where the partnership is going. There is no partnership if there's only one person. Yes,
Right.
two people makes up the partnership. And so at all times, people are asking themselves, should be asking themselves, Rob, because I know I know I know what your thought is going to be. But at all times, people ought to be asking themselves, is this decision, is this action that I'm going to take in the best interest of partnership? Even if it is not even if it is in my best interest, but is it in the best interest of the partnership? And where it is not in the best interest of the partnership, do I sacrifice my best interest for the interest of the partnership?
Right. So the partnership is prioritized over self.
Over self, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a given in your when you get married, they even actually say that. So
Mhm.
I don't want to say that's the obvious part of it. Now, if you were to get it right, again, you were saying this as a happily married man living in the ideal situation
Right.
where your problem is your wife talking for 2 hours. Now, look, there was a prime minister of Trinidad who had a hearing aid. And when people were saying things he didn't like,
He
would
just
just
turned
turn
off.
the hearing aid. And he was the best prime minister they ever had, Dr. Eric Williams. But
No, Eric.
I was listening to Mish earlier. Brother D,
Yes.
my prayer is that you remain married because you're in a great position and you have a beautiful wife. Like I'm addressing you and she's not even in the picture. Let's hope it's just let's hope it's not figuratively or not literally, right? But she's right there, right? And you are happy. You all are clearly happy. You all look like a beautiful couple. I'll have to ask Gary, how come I don't get to hang out with you people? You know what I mean? But like she hides me away from all the good people.
Oh my
But
God.
but we just talk about that later. But to speak to Mish,
We'll talk, Rob. We'll talk.
Mish was saying a couple of things, and I like what she was saying, but I didn't like the energy I was getting from it because she made comments like I could do bad by myself. She made
Yeah.
comments like the woman is supposed to this, and if there's my thing is when there's a divorce or a separation, there should be no feeling of guilt towards the woman or the man. Something didn't
Right.
work out, right? And it just didn't work out for whatever reason. Now
Right.
I could understand ideally where brother D is coming from. But I was thinking of things and I was saying why divorce, right? Well, they got real issues, brother D, that maybe will never impact your relationship, like mental health. Now I don't know me situation, but if it's impacting your mental health, you will want to say, well, look, at what cost?
Right.
You know what I mean? Relationships are funny. Misha also made a point that I actually wrote down before she made it. We learn from, they say success leave clues, right? And that only works when it works. Because when it doesn't, right? Like we have seen what happened in our parents' generations. People were unhappily married, and this had nothing to do with men. I mean, sorry, with women being afraid to leave. This was society norms
Right.
and mores or mores, like you all say. Said you get married and it's forever. And
Right.
to leave that marriage, the man or the woman, you will be frowned upon within that immediate society. You will be judged. You will be looked down upon. You will be considered a failure, not unlike in your neighborhood the way they would refer to men when they didn't take care of their kids or their wife.
Yeah,
No, right?
It's true. Yeah.
So our parents' generations, they had a lot of errors. And I'm not saying that they couldn't stand to do better planning before marriage, or I'm not saying they couldn't stand to really figure it out and work at their marriages. But at the end of the day, commitment, no commitment, love, if you don't have that peace of mind to go forward, right, you may end up doing anything from committing suicide to be living in a bitter existence for the rest of your life. So I ask the question, at what cost? At what cost? And the main reason I'm asking that is because love is very strange. You know, in an ideal situation, two people will meet and they will figure out, well, where we want to go with this and how are we going to complement each other and have the best marriage possible. But in real life situations, you will run into someone in the wrong place and your union will be as a result of something you couldn't even make up. You understand? So the way people fall in love and the people who other people fall in love with, if I get a dime for every time I heard, I would have never expect to end up with this guy. Right? The way people fall in love, we don't give much we don't pay attention to that because people fall in love in the funniest ways. If you were to really hear the stories, a lot of those ways, because of the way they fall in love, a lot of times you don't have that perfect planning. Right? A lot of people get married because someone got pregnant, right? A lot of people get married because they find this person, they felt this was their best friend. A lot of people got married because they had enough in common in terms of the incomes they earned. A lot of people got married because they ran into this guy at the right time and it had to be God's plan. You know, people get married for so many crazy reasons, or people get together for so many crazy reasons. To say that once you do it, you gotta, you know, it's
Stick
almost
to
like
it.
saying that, well, look, if you make a mistake, because very often marriage is a mistake, even if you get to know someone and plan, because I heard it twice from you and your wife, we evolve. I also heard you say people are dynamic, all true.
Right.
I also heard you say you learn yourself while you're growing, and you are
Right.
not who you are when you got married.
Right.
All of these are reasons, not grounds for divorce, but all of these are reasons why marriages may end up in a place where you decide, like with governments and like with business, do we keep going? Do we keep sinking this ship? Or do we get off this ship and save the lives? You know,
Right.
that's real.
Yep.
I
I
understand.
want to.
I understand. Of course, and it is not to discredit that those are reasons. It is to point out what fundamentally a person is supposed to be bringing to their marriage, the attitude that an individual is supposed to be bringing to the partnership, and we understand. I mean, from my particular position, there are those things that I would not advocate for, but there are those things that I do understand. I understand why things happen the way they do, even though I may not advocate for those things. But it is bringing to the fore that this is how it is. These are the attitudes. These are the things that people ought to bring to marriage. You know, I know Misha's on the point what she want to make, but you know, there's a text in Ephesians, I believe, chapter 4, where the Bible speaks about how men and women ought to contribute to marriage. And there is something fundamental that I noticed in the text, and it is this. Um, the Bible says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church
Right.
and gave his life a ransom for it. And then the Bible says, wives, submit to your husbands. All right. I want to point out to you, because we don't have the time for you to think for yourself. I want you to point out, and there's another text, there's another part of the text further that says, wives and husbands must submit to each other. All right. I want to point out to you what the Bible did not say in that moment. The text at no point invited wife to love husband. The text invited husband to love wife. Why husbands love your wife. Wives
Submit to
and then
husband.
each other. Why? Because God doesn't have to ask the wife to love her husband. She will love it. But he has to ask the husband to love his wife. Why?
Is that current
Because
or was that then?
it is
No,
what
because they said women have evolved into a different
no,
situation.
what's your point? What's your point? And of course,
So
that's your point. I'm speaking.
Is this relevant? Is what he is saying.
I know what he's asking.
no, bigly, he understand.
And of course, within a spiritual context.
Uh,
I speak. The truth of the matter is that a wife responds, as a godly spiritual woman responds to love from her husband with respect and submission. Yes,
I agree.
and I'm gonna say, and I'll say that to you.
You prefaced it
when-
with something.
When you get
prefaced it with you made a particular type of woman before you said what she does.
Yeah.
That's
You live in
correct.
you live in an average. You caught it, right?
Yes.
Prefaced it with something.
because
Right.
that's what one should be. A godly woman, and quite frankly, when you get born again, you will find that your wife responds to your love. And if you ask my wife, she'll tell you the thing. Wife responds once she is secured in your love. She submits and respects. Once she feels secured in your love, she submits and respects. Unless something is fundamentally and spiritually wrong with her.
Oh God.
All right. Well,
That-
you made a
that's-
perfect situation even
that's
more
just
perfect.
fine. If she is spiritually disconnected or something is just fundamentally wrong with the way she's wired, then you may have a different experience. But a woman that is godly, and I'd like to believe
Two
that most
questions.
women are godly, responds to love.
Go ahead with your two
So,
questions.
two questions. What about if we look at it? Is there any way that the guy
Mhm.
could be disconnected? Could be a problem in that situation, even though the woman is doing the right thing,
He,
right?
he could be.
And there also is grounds for a problem in that situation because it mars your perfect situation. But leave that there. My real question to you is, where have you? And I think I know the answer. But because I feel like if you and I would be speaking alone, it's
Yeah.
almost like a problemed person is speaking to Dr. Phil. And no, you see where I'm coming from. This is not.
Yeah.
I'm saying because what I speak about, on most of them are not my issues I deal with on a day-to-day basis, right? I'm speaking in general for the stuff I see as a relatively young black man that's socially engaged.
Let me interject. Let me interject and say, remember that the text that quote is not descriptive. It is prescriptive.
Okay.
It is a prescription as
I
to
like
what
that.
as to what it is supposed to be. You understand what I'm saying, Kerry? It is
Yeah.
it
It's
is
a rule for
it
everybody.
is
Like
it
you can
is the
apply it.
prescription. It is a
It's a
prescription.
prescription.
It's not descriptive. So it is probably going to be applied differently. And once it is a prescription, then you're going to find that it is being prescribed because not everybody does it.
Gotcha. Again, so I was still asking you that question. Now I was saying that it's almost like the world, me, is seeking help. And you, who represent the correct, the perfect situation, is kind of speaking to, no, I'm not saying that you are perfect. That's not what I'm saying. Because your answers are all ideal.
Right.
Is idealistic world, right? That most people are not living in, right? But because you have had the good fortune to be in that situation, you present it. Now, it's very difficult to present.
Because I know what it should be.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm saying. But when you present this to the world, now this is a podcast where we're speaking to people and we're trying to inform, different decisions or different. When you speak it and you put it out there, well, it's prescriptive now, so it's gonna work, right? But when you put it out there, if people can't identify, they cannot buy into it, right? So my question is, where did you learn these things? I'm assuming your ideas and your theories around marriage and relationships, they were learned in between the home and the church, because I learned them too.
And the study of the Bible, yeah.
Right? So was it learned in the home and in the church?
Home, church, study, research. Yeah.
All right. I think the things we hold on to the longest in life, right? The things we learn through research and studying, that's the things we change later on in life. The things that we make part of who we are, right? That's the things that we don't even realize we do. We do it naturally because it was almost like part of our, us growing up. I agree with almost everything you have said, right? But the practical application in real life, I have a hard time seeing this actually work for the majority of Black people living in the situations, right, or living through day-to-day situations that we live in today. I think people have been tweaking stuff to work. People have been trying new things. Society and outside external forces have contributed something. Now you live, and I respect that, right? I really need to hang out. Maybe I'll find a good wife, but
oh my
I think
God.
Lisa's taken and she doesn't even know it. but
Can't manage me.
if we were talking about like relationships and what the best relationships will look like, they wouldn't probably even call me to talk, right? Because my experience, even like after my divorce and in other relationships, I meet really good women from time to time, right? But the things, even when you try to take this recipe to bake these cookies, you never get a perfect fit. You continue to learn, even before your experience. You could do everything you have said, even if you did if you have done everything you have prescribed, that actually God has prescribed through His written text, right? You could still end up in a situation, my opinion, where, hold up, Mish believes we gotta get a divorce because we are human
X, Y,
first.
and Z, right?
And there's a cost that's attached to it. So I understand everything that you're saying. I believe I understand everything you're saying. And I believe what you're saying has worked. I think when you force your situation, you end up with our parents' generation.
Right.
Because they are telling themselves, we could fix this, it's gonna work. And they are doing that to the detriment of their kids.
Right.
They are doing
And that
that
is
to
and again, that is why I say prescriptive. A lot. I think I pointed out earlier that my marriage has been a great schoolmaster because for me, here it is. For me, for every turn where a challenge developed that I'm not equipped with the tool to handle this challenge, then I'm going to have to go find it. Yes,
right.
I'm going to have to go find it. And there are times when I've been frustrated enough. There are times, and I said to you that everybody probably have gotten to the point where they say to themselves, "It's probably better to walk away." There are times that I've been frustrated enough where I said, "Maybe my wife will be better off if we go our separate ways." But then for me, that would not be the best option or the final option. I have to then find another way. What is happening here, and what is the best way? And so, a great deal of what I share with you, it is through the crucibles of the challenges of life that I've had to go and find something that works and understand that an institution that God created, fundamentally, there must have been an ideal way in which he expected that this would be executed. And so for me, it is going to be that I'm going to go find that way that he expected to be executed. And mark you, we talk about divorce. We talk about divorce. You know, in the Old Testament, divorce is a very prevalent thing. A man could divorce his wife because he didn't like the way she cooks. And in a patriarchal society, once the husband puts you away, your dignity and your worth becomes
Nothing.
nothing. So Moses really was the first person to come up with the idea of a bill of divorcement, which says that if you didn't like the way your wife cooking and put her away, you got to give her a bill of divorcement, something. And then we talk about the legal aspect. This was a legal document that preserved the dignity of the individual that was being put away. But ideally, that was not what God intended. And that's all I'm saying. That's not how God intended it to be. But because that was the situation that prevailed, then they had to find a way in which the dignity of those who were being separated could be handled. And that is why the prescription, because of that issue in the Old Testament,
Right.
the
Okay.
prescription
So the New Testament.
now becomes, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave his life a ransom for it. We talk about to what cost. The ransom, the cost of Christ was his life. All right, I'm not telling you to go die for it.
Raf,
I'm
did you
just-
have a last point you wanted to make, or
No, I just want to make a big overarching point around that, and I know we have a lot to touch on still. That prescription was great, and it spoke to husbands and wives, and the Bible also speaks about a prescription, or not necessarily a prescription, quote unquote, but for life in general and the world, and it has failed us. I'm not saying God has failed us. Don't mistake what I'm saying here. I'm saying a lot of the stuff that is taught to us, right? If you apply it in a real sense, you really don't see it working on so many levels. Just look around at what's happening today, you know? So
That's a deep
okay, with all of that said, I actually do want to wrap up. I actually do want to wrap up the conversation. I don't want us to be going 3 hours having this conversation. We are going to split it. I mean, it's a great conversation, and we would love to have the conversation again. I mean, around other things, but this is important. I do want to ask, now that we've talked about the prioritizing marriage and what people are looking for and walking away from marriage, I kind of want to bring Polshar in to start wrapping up, where we discuss the outlook of marriage. What do you think after you hear what Darren had to say, especially in the last part, and what Raf had to say? Do you feel like, as Black people, as Caribbean people, we can have a good outlook on marriage. Do you think that marriages can last? Do you still believe in marriage after this conversation? And do you feel like we can have long-lasting marriages?
Yes to both. I believed in marriage at the beginning. I still do. And I definitely believe people can have long and healthy relationships and marriages. I think everyone has kind of worked their way into saying what marriages involve. And if anything you take from this, I don't expect you'll take one definition, but you should at least realize that at the very minimum, you and your partner need to agree on what that's going to look like. And you have to, there has to be some level of commitment and agreement that this is not going to be perfect and we will fall out of each other's favor. But we have an agreement on what this is going to look like, and that just demands some loyalty, some honesty, and some truth speaking. And I think if you have that, then I cannot imagine. And I think there are wonderful marriages in our community, and I've experienced some, and I've seen many, and I aspire to that if that's in my future. Because I would not get married if I didn't think it was something that's gonna last. You don't purposefully fail yourself, right?
Right.
So,
anyway, I was gonna say something about failing yourself, but
that's
a whole conversation.
I mean, I don't think you intentionally do it.
Right.
You hope for the best. Most people are hoping for the best in an imperfect situation because there is no perfect situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Carrie, do you have any kind of final thoughts? What do you take away from this? And in addition to that, have your thoughts changed on the concept of marriage? And do you feel like it will be long lasting? It can be long lasting for the majority of the Black families.
But I think that if Will and Jada are any example.
What did you say, Carrie?
The entanglements.
Oh, Will and Jada.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I kid.
But they are married, and that's their definition of marriage. So it is what it is.
Right.
I mean, it's how I see it.
Absolutely, I agree. I think this conversation has so I've learned quite a bit from this discussion. I think the one thing that comes to mind though is this idea that you're not only committed to self and committed to partner, but you're committed to the partnership. And I think that's true on so many levels, right? Like as Black people, we're committed to self, we're committed to family, but we are also committed to the larger Black collective. And so I look at those things in parallel. And I think that's a true takeaway for me because it is a balance. It's a dance. And you do, I think to Darren's point, have to ask the question, how does this impact not only me, but this partnership that I'm building? And that question, it involves a lot of introspection. It requires that you take the time to gather your own insight about your role and this partnership. Like it sounds like a simple question, but it's really not a simple question because if you're racing through life trying to do things just to do it, you're not going to take the time to ask that question. And I don't think most people ask that question, honestly, is my opinion.
Right.
So I love that question so much because it requires you to slow down and pause and connect with your partnership. This is the purpose of this interaction with this other person. What's the purpose of that, right?
Right.
So I think that's a real takeaway for me. In terms of getting, married or not, I think my position is still the same. If that's something my partner and I want to do, then sure. It's not I'm never doing this thing, but it's not a goal for me. I think my goal is always a partnership. What are you looking for in a life partner? And I say Will and Jada as a joke, but I think what they have is true transparency and they have committed, at least, right? Where I'm talking from a surface point of view. I don't know these people, but they've committed to a partnership. Up, down, sideways, backwards, through and through. They
Right.
have said we are in this together. And I respect that from any couple, whether they're a celebrity or not. I think it's not pretty all the time.
Right.
And people need to see that and understand that we're gonna work through this when it's not pretty. We're still in this together.
Right.
So yeah, I think those are some of my takeaways.
Okay. So I know you missed some.
That it's not pretty all the time, right? But the partnership says we're going to go through it together. I've always said a number of times to people I've talked to regarding marriage that when I became a teacher, I love teaching, right? But there are days where, man, they get on my last nerves. I'm gonna be honest. Them kids make me want to check myself in a psych ward or lock myself up in jail, But I don't quit on my job and say I can't take it anymore, right? I push through it. And for me, I see marriage like that. Like there are going to be days that are not that pretty, that I'm just not. It's not favorable. But when you're committed to the partnership, you work through it, and you go through the moments, because that's what life is, right? You have up days, you have down days, you have summer, winter, spring, and fall. You go through the moments, you go through the seasons, and like Carrie said, Will and Jada, it works for them, so you respect it. Find what works for you and your partner, and the key is find what works for you and your partner, because you can't look at other people and say, well, I want that, right? Because that may not work for you and your partner. So I'm a firm believer in finding what works for you and your partner, and make it work for you guys, and not everybody's going to agree with it. You're going to have people going to have their naysays, like, that don't work for me. That's fine. It's not you. It's me. If it works for me, then it works for me. So that's my takeaway from the whole thing.
Awesome. All right, Ralph, your turn.
Where's brother D?
He's coming.
Before rap goes, Meech, what is your takeaway?
Well, I did want to hear everyone else, because I was gonna say that there are words that have been repeated many times. Words such as commitment, partnership, respect. Darren mentioned love at one point, about the man loving the woman, but I realized that this has a lot less to do with love. People are always going into it saying, I love this person, I'm going to love them till the day I die. Child, please. So I'm just saying, lot less to do with love, and I mean, yes, and a lot more to do with making a decision to put the partnership ahead of everything else, and forgetting the stigma that's associated with it. Like, I don't think at the end of the day, and you talked about Will and Jada, I don't think at the end of the day, Will and Jada are like, okay, well, everybody thinks our partnership is terrible, so let's get a divorce. No, they don't care. So I subscribe to that, and I will continue to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's two people who are making that decision together. I don't judge. I don't see why other people need to judge. They do what they want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And if it works, it works. And that is kind of my takeaway around it. So I will, now that we did all the ladies, I wanted to leave the guys with the last word. Raf, you are itching to speak. Please go ahead.
I just don't want to speak without brother D here, because he's contributed so much. So
he's here. So you're good.
Yeah, so I've there are a lot of things. One thing that was not new to me was the idea of commitment to partnership. Maybe it's because I'm 47, right? And it's something I've because no, you have to understand, like at Carrie age, right? That is something that people never probably spoke about. Like when he mentioned it, I said that's even spoken of on the marriage day. That's something that in marriage they tell you is about the partnership. It's never about you. It's never about one person. So that's the one thing I did know, but I did notice and learn a lot of things about, from what was said from everyone. You know, I learned that in this. I learned that Sha likes to pretend she's shy and she doesn't speak much, but she's thinking a whole lot and she's way more intelligent than we realize. So she's keeping quiet and making notes somewhere, right? Um, I listening to my friend over here. I'm really getting deep down that you need to get off these dating sites or wherever she's at meeting these men, because if she's listening to Brother D, she's not gonna find that balance in that going in that direction.
Oh
You know what I mean?
gosh.
Talking about commitment to partnership, that's not where it lives. The fundamentals start somewhere else.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's really a commitment to yourself when you're doing that. I sense something with you, Mish, that I've never really sensed before, and I don't want to call it a bitterness, right? But I just want to say there should be no guilt, right?
Right.
Or judgment in divorce, in your divorce. And history doesn't always have to repeat itself. We learn from our mistakes because everything Brother D said could be applied the second time around.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So there's no reason to even go in the direction of
Or the third time.
Huh?
Or the third time.
Or the third time. You don't know, right? I met a lady told me yesterday she was married 3 times and she's looking for a husband. And I said, more power to you. I would help you look for him.
He said, I will help you look for him.
Yeah. But
Disrespectful.
no, but so these are real situations. I was fortunate to be in a marriage where I was able to learn a lot. I think, and I'm not gonna, I keep saying marriage because it's what I know, but I'm not gonna even judge people for calling it for being in whatever situation they're in. I believe if your heart is pure, right, and you're doing the right thing and you're doing what you believe to be right, I believe that God is an understanding God.
Right.
And will give you clues along the way. Not saying you're gonna succeed. I'm saying, but you're gonna at least die trying. You keep giving it that you keep trying to do the right thing. While I keep saying that Brother D he has this idealistic outlook. He has this because this is his experience.
Right.
So it's actually a great thing because we actually need more people with these experiences to be around the young people to let them know that all these things, right, that you see in pop culture, these things, they are not really representative, right, of where positive relationships live. It's simpler things like the things that Brother D has experienced and is preaching. And I use that word preaching loosely.
Right.
Right? So I've actually, and I admire that because while I could be a realist, because I'm being very honest, because I have not, while I'm single and all that, I can't really say I've had experiences with women. I can't really say, but I've seen bad situations with people. I can't say I've ever been bitter in a relationship because I'm one of those people. If something is done, it's just like with business. If something fails, you move on next. And that's not the right way to look at marriage. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, but I've never been this bitter person. Mish, every time I talk, I'm laughing, I'm happy. It's not a facade.
Right.
It's really who I am.
Right.
And I'm sure Kerry will say that. I'm at the core, I'm a deep thinker still, right?
Right.
So I am not against the idea of me being happily married one day. I look forward, however, to spending some time with Brother D. So some of those jewels
will drop in your pocket and somebody
you have
can
to place yourself in positions to get these blessings.
That's right.
Right, brother?
That's right.
You're laughing, but it's true.
Right.
Place yourself in positions to get these blessings.
I mean, we've talked about networking and even on other episodes of the podcast where if you want to buy a house, you're not gonna go to somebody who doesn't know anything about houses, or you're not going to surround yourself with people who know nothing about the things that you're interested in. So if you're interested in marriage, then it's important for you to surround yourself with people who have knowledge of how to succeed in marriage. So it makes sense. And not to say that how they've done it is the way that you should do it, but at least you will learn the concepts, and at least you'll learn things that you can take away from it that will help you on your journey. So it makes sense to surround yourself with those people, Raf. So it's okay to want to
More
be
important,
to get
you
these
have an
jewels.
example. More important, like Obama was the president. All the black kids know black young men could be presidents.
Right.
If this guy's in a successful relationship and you could touch him, you know, it's tangible. It's not a story somebody's telling you.
Right.
Then you know that this is possible.
Right. I agree. Okay, so Darren, let's hear your final thoughts on everything.
One of my favorite authors, I'm sure would probably know who this is, said, and I'm quoting, "Higher than the highest human thought can reach is God's ideal for his children." And end quote. I think that marriage is one of those ideals that God has. In terms of how we execute and experience, higher than any human thought can reach is God's ideal. I've learned in my years of marriage, and I can't do this long. I have 5% battery life. I've learned in my years of marriage that the prescription that I shared earlier, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave his life a ransom for it. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands, submit one to another. I've learned in my life, in my marriage, and I continue to learn that this is a prescription that sums up the context of partnership. Love your spouse as Christ loved the church. Life, as I said, is difficult. Life is challenging. Life is challenging. Your partner is your life partner. And wherever it is that life leads you, this is the person you're with. And so your love, a husband's love for a wife says that at her lowest point, when she has made whatever mess or boo-boo she has made, she can depend that you're going to love her through that situation and get her back to a place. A husband can understand that even when he doesn't get it right, he can expect that his wife is going to still give him the respect and the dignity that he should have as a man. It is not perfection. It is how we apply when things, even at our lowest point, we love and we respect each other. Because at the end of the day, again, we say that what matters is the partnership. And again, when I tell you that these are things that I've learned through marriage, I mean these are things that I've learned. It is not something that somebody tells me. It is something that I've learned. It's something I've continued to learn. Points when I've gotten to the place where I said, you know something, it's probably better we go separate ways. And realizing that that's not an option for us. You've got to go back and say, okay, how do we do this? And you go and you look for the prescription that works. Life is challenging. Just ensure that the partner you choose understands that it is challenging and is willing to partner with you through the lowest point. Last point I'll make is this. I speak of love. In Genesis, there's a word called love, which is, I believe it is agape. It literally means this, right? It is loving the object of your love, even when that object becomes unlovable. That is the way a husband should love his wife. Should I say it again?
Not the other way around.
Love the object of your love, even when that object becomes unlovable. That's marriage.
Live or die,
Okay.
make
Okay, we will take that and run with it. Raf is digesting that. So while he's digesting that, we will end on that note. Thank you guys so much. You don't even understand how much I appreciate, right? You need to swallow that one. You don't even know how much we appreciate that you guys are willing to join us. And
Oh, we're not
able to
getting paid for
discuss
this?
this. You can talk to Carrie about that. So I'll leave you with Carrie. Yes, and to discuss this topic that we really haven't delved deep into before, and to discuss it in length to the point where we have to split it up in two, and they're going to really learn a lot from it, I believe. So we appreciate the time that you've taken to do this. We appreciate all the gems you've dropped, and we are receiving it. And hopefully all the unmarried people will look back on this, and during our reception we'll say, remember that time, especially Raf. So we appreciate it, and we thank you guys very much. And until we have another topic that we want to bring in the male perspective, until next time, thank you guys.
Sexist, but we're not gonna say anything about
What do you
that.
mean? This is a female podcast.
Until you have another situation where you're gonna bring in the male perspective.
Yeah, because it's a female podcast. So until we have another opportunity.
You got your lawyers on speed.
Until we have another opportunity. You are welcome anytime. No, what did he say?
Let's talk about our own podcast, Raf.
We could definitely do that because we have.
Okay, so we're signing off because we're not joining that church. We're not joining that church. Okay.
Guys, I just want to say thank you. I think you're doing me more justice than I'm doing yours. So I appreciate.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us. And we will see you another time. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.